Hi, hello, and welcome to According to Weeze, the podcast, where we're going to have candid conversation with the hopes of finding a way forward in community. See, we exist and experience life at the intersection of our complex identities and our socio-cultural and political systems. And let's be real, the only way to dismantle it all is to start by dissecting it. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. Yo, and welcome to another episode of According to Weeze, the podcast. I am very fortunate today to be joined by, it's funny because she literally just said she's worked so much she doesn't have time to pause and think about how amazing the things that she's doing are. But I was just about to say this like phenomenal human who's doing this phenomenal work in the world. But I get that when you're like in it and you can't think about it. So we're just going to first give you a moment of affirmation. This phenomenal human who's doing amazing work in the world that is, I will get into whether it's your purpose or not, but that is really serving a community that is forgotten, ignored, and intentionally being erased. Felicia, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, oh God, where do I want to start? Okay, we have to start at the beginning. Sometimes I forget that like I know what you do and how amazing it is, and like I've read all about it, and I just want to get into the like nitty gritty of it, and then I'm like, oh wait, the listeners have to catch up. So let's run it back. So I actually found out about Sidewalk School through somebody on Team Weeze, the amazing Lucy. And, you know, we were all kind of looking at just organizations that were aligned with Team Weeze values, that were doing really amazing work in the world. And I felt, at least, we're not getting the proper recognition and or are not having, like, the stories, their story and also the stories of the people that they're supporting are not being told. And so Lucy was like, yo, look at this amazing organization, the Sidewalk School. So let's start there. Let's start with, tell the people about the Sidewalk School.
So the Sidewalk School, the full name is the Sidewalk School for Children Asylum Seekers. And it serves children asylum seekers who are stuck in Mexico because of MPP, the Migrant Protection Program, funny enough.
I was like, put big ass air quotes around that.
Yeah. And we started out just in the Matamoros encampment, but the Sidewalk School is now in 7 cities across Mexico, just because there's a great need for the children who are stuck there, education-wise. A lot of them have been out of school for 1.5 years, going on 2 years at this point. We get new students every day. We just enrolled some this week, actually, in different cities. But that's what we do in the 7 cities. But initially starting out, and like we also serve lunch. We also give clothing, shoes. We also pay for medical bills.
Yeah, y'all are like really supporting, like not just educating. You are really supporting these children to make sure that they are able to not just matriculate, right, like through school. The fact that they are with you long enough to matriculate is disgusting on its own. But to matriculate through school, but also be like fully well-rounded, supported, healthy humans, little humans.
Yeah, we've taken kids to get brain scans. We've paid for eye appointments, medications. We've paid for sonograms when there was some worms going around the encampment for a while. We paid for all that. We even paid 2 weeks straight for a little girl who had serious 3rd-degree burns because her blind uncle knocked over a pot inside their tent. So the water went all over her. And this is during COVID time, so they couldn't take her to the hospital. So we paid for a nurse, an apartment, and we took care of them for 2 weeks until the little girl was healed enough to go back. So we try to cover everything and all the needs. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a step back, if we will. Because I can imagine for some people, they're just like, oh, this is so great that you're doing this. And it is, right? It is. The work that you and the Sidewalk School, the teachers, right, your manager, like, is phenomenal. And the fact that there is a need for a sidewalk school to begin with is really where the problem starts. So I don't think a lot of, actually, I know for a fact, because I got banged on when I said that there were internment camps in the U.S., like on U.S. soil. And of course,
Right.
Americans who don't know any better were like, that's not true, and you can't say that. And I was like, you should read. So let's take it all the way back. What was what? Let me ask you this differently. What political and or social realities in the U.S. created the need for the sidewalk school?
Okay. So if we really go all the way back, I started out in Matamoros in 2018. And this is back when Trump put metering back into place. And at that time, people were sleeping underneath a carport on the bridge as they waited for their interview with the U.S. And at that time, they were there for like 2 weeks. And everyone was just like, and even us at the time, the volunteers, like, that's so long to have people living outside. But little did we know that was the beginning of it. The 2 weeks turned into a month. And the month turned into the first tent city on the plaza on the bridge where families start living in tents. We were crossing to feed everyone. So what they did was the U.S. just shook all responsibility for the asylum seekers, even though the asylum seekers belong to the U.S. They're our responsibility. But what they did was they left them on Mexico's side, just like feet away from U.S. side on a bridge with no food, no clothing, no shelter, and said good luck. So what happened was a bunch of private American citizens like myself, we started organizations where none of us have zero experience in it. We all started organizations, American ran organizations all across the board, up and down the border. Because they're in El Paso now as well. All these new organizations, grassroots organizations came to be because of the U.S. government not doing anything for their own people is what they did. And not only are they not doing anything for their own people, the asylum seekers, they don't fund any of the organizations either. The U.S. government has given me $0. It's almost 2 years now. Oh, it is 2 years. I started 2018. I've gotten $0 from the U.S. government. No support, no help. So everything I've learned, I've had to learn on the fly. And I've had to learn how to make all of it work.
Yeah, like everything inside of me wants to be like, okay, now let's explain how truly fucked up that is based on what asylum seeking is and all of those things. But we are going to have the amazing Ray on next, who I don't even want to spoil all of his magic. We'll just say, we'll put an asterisk on that conversation and just say, listen to part 2 of this 2-part series, because Ray is going to come on and talk to us about all of that. But so really what we had, to your point, is folks came to seek asylum, which is a real thing.
Legal.
To be clear.
Yeah.
Legally.
And it's a legal thing. It's legal.
Yes, 100%. There's a whole legal process and procedure, and people did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Yes.
Now, in America, a lot of people like to call it Trump's America. I would like to be clear before we get fully banged on that this is not the first time that we have seen this in America's history. He is not the first president. He was just the most deplorable about it.
Right.
But yes, we're not going to pretend like America has not, in one way, shape, form, shucked its responsibilities. Let's just say that. So he puts now all of these people who have lawfully and legally sought out support, aid, and asylum.
Right.
In some of the most dehumanizing conditions to live in.
Right. So I was there before Tent City. I was there for Tent City 1. I got to watch Tent City Part 2 grow on the next plaza over. And then I watched as they pushed all the asylum seekers back into the woods, which is where they are now. Now, at their highest, the most people inside that encampment, it was 5,000 people. And we were serving over 700 children. Now, if you can imagine no support from anyone, I used up all my life savings for the Sidewalk School. And I would do it again because how else would they eat? How else would they get an education or see a book? Or how else would they get clothes, coats, jackets? Who would pay for all the medicine? Who would take them to the doctor? I mean, we buy diapers, wipes, anything you can think of, we have bought. We have bought. And so this is something else Trump did. He hit us. So there's a reason why the Sidewalk School doesn't have a lot of followers. I've been asked that before because no one knows about me, because they don't do stories about the organizations that support the asylum seekers. There's tons of us now. And he's done a great job of hiding it.
Take us a step back. You said they were pushed into the woods. So deeper into Mexico.
So there used to be encampments along the border. It wasn't just the Matamoros encampment. There used to be 3 encampments in Juarez and Matamoros. There may have been more. So what happened was when COVID hit, the Mexican government came in and they were like, the encampments have to go. Y'all have to do something else.
Okay.
So then private donors, churches, other people came in and they closed down all these encampments except for the Matamoros encampment because the asylum seekers there refused to leave it.
Okay.
What they did was threaten to take away their children if they didn't leave that encampment. They did the same thing in Juarez. There's videos of it if anyone ever cares to look for them. And if you speak Spanish, you'll see them there threatening to take away their kids if they didn't leave that encampment. What happened in Matamoros was they said, you take our kids, we're going to kick your ass. And there's a video of them surrounding this guy. So the Matamoros encampment is the last one standing. The rest have closed down. And that's because they just didn't fold under Mexican pressure.
Yeah. And so American responsibility, asylum seekers to America, but they are on Mexican soil. Explain that to the people, because that math ain't mathin'.
So it's so if you go up to an officer and say you're seeking asylum, what they do is you have a choice of either going to jail or going back into Mexico and waiting. So you get to choose. And for a while, it was if you go to jail, your kid is going to go to this jail and you're going to go to that jail. Mm-hmm. And of course, people didn't want to be separated from their children. So then that means you're going back into Mexico. So you're going back into Mexico. Where are you going to go? The encampment. That's how we got 5,000 people there.
Yeah.
So the U.S., their choices they were giving people was lose your family or go live outside in the woods. So people lived outside in the woods.
Outside in the woods. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's I would make that decision.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people changed their mind. People still live in that encampment. And so what they did are doing were they send their children across unaccompanied because they felt like it's hard living outside 24/7.
Yeah.
There's storms and floods and mosquitoes. Right. So they would send their kids across unaccompanied and the kids would go to kid jail with the hope of that they would be released to another relative after some time.
But we know that that's not what happened.
I used to work in one of the kid jails. I was a child advocate. So I discouraged that with all of my parents. I've had lawyers come in and talk to the parents. And I'm really honest with the parents about this is what will happen and this is what your kid will live in because I have been there. I've seen it.
Yeah.
They would send them anyway. And for a period, they were deporting children alone back to their home countries. Right.
I read that, at one point I read that they literally put a 3-month-old baby through a deportation trial and sent him back. Make it make sense. It can't. It can't. It just doesn't, right? You have to truly have a deep-seated hatred for human beings who, again, to be clear, have not committed crimes and are legally and lawfully seeking asylum. And then our children? 3 months old? What atrocity has this 3-month-old committed?
So once they get sent back, they're in their country's foster system.
Right. Which clearly, for those that don't understand asylum, real quick, and I won't go too deep into it, you leave a country and seek asylum because your native country, in some sort of way, is going to either persecute you, cause you harm, right? You're a refugee of some sort. Basically, bad things are happening if you are going to legally and lawfully seek asylum. There are very specific guidelines for what that is.
Right.
So then to send that child back to that home country and then to have it in a foster system is just...
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I think that also, and, you know, I would love for you to speak to this, but there has to be some sort of issue of legality even there.
So everything that they're doing is legal. So something else Trump did during his term was, and I used to call it the shiny ball trick. He was changing laws like every week for months, almost a year, immigration laws. But while he was changing all these laws to make all of this legal, he was making all of y'all look at the shiny ball over there.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And then the people who are here dealing with it, we couldn't tell asylum seekers what was going to happen from one week to the next because he was changing laws so much and making so many things legal. So I have a story for you, and this deals with an American woman who came to the Matamoros encampment trying to help the asylum seekers. She started crossing children asylum seekers and handing them over to Border Patrol. So, and then recording herself doing this and then asking people for money. When we get off this call, I'll let you know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I'll send you one of her videos. She still has them up. But she was crossing these kids, and the other director of the school, his name is Victor Cavazos. We're the only two Americans in this organization. Once we found out, because she would do it live, we would run to the bridge and try to catch her and get the kids back. We missed her the first time. The second time, she was driving away. We were too late, but we ran down to our U.S. Customs building where the guards took the kids. And when we got there, they were taking their shoes off and processing them. And we told them, we know who the parents are, that they weren't meant to be crossed. Can we have them back? And if, like, I called the parents on FaceTime and they talked to them and we could prove that these are their parents, can we have the kids back? And they were like, no, it's too late. They're here with us. You can't take them back. So then I said, well, you know what? It was an American woman who brought them across. I said, y'all should be arresting her. That's not legal. She shouldn't be able to take kids out of a camp and walk across and hand them off to some U.S. Customs agents. I was speaking with the supervisor because I was like, I want to talk to the person highest up in this office. He said what she did is legal. Trump made it so. So I asked him very plainly. I said, what you're saying is I can walk over to the encampment, grab a kid by his or her hand, walk them across the bridge and hand them over to a Border Patrol agent, and I'm fine. It's cool what I just did? He said, yes, that is legal. Trump made it so. So that woman, she eventually left Matamoros. And if you ever have time, you should go look back at my old Facebook post because I do name her. And I told her I'm coming after her because what she's doing is wrong. She's taking advantage of a disadvantaged population.
Listen,
she left.
We get off. I just listen.
Well, she came back. She's back in Matamoros again. She came back 2 months ago. And I told her she needs to watch herself. I said, don't start that up again. Because it will be, she tried to run Victor over one of those nights when we ran after her with her truck.
I mean, the fact that you are legalizing kidnapping, like we already know that societally, Black and brown children being kidnapped, nobody cares, right? We know.
Right.
But you made it a fucking law.
It's a loophole that she knew about and she took advantage of it. And she was lying to those parents.
But to what end? This is what I don't understand. To what end? What is your purpose, ma'am? Like, what is in your mind? Like, what do you think you're accomplishing?
I'm going to send you one of her videos.
I can't wait.
She narrates from beginning to end. And people were actually, and still are, giving her money. Her thing is the U.S. government is separating families. And this is the only way to help them. And it's like, but
No,
you're
ma'am, you're
separating
separating
the
families.
families. Right. She was separating the family.
You know when you like hear information, but like your whole body shuts down because it's trying to process it, because it literally is like I'm having a full moment. I'm like, these are the moments where I am not a violent person. I don't believe in violence. A lot of, like de-escalation training. But that's some like, you finna get your ass whooped on sight. Like, that's one of those, and I'm not saying you said that. I said that. Weeze. These are Weeze's beliefs. Like, let us be clear, just in case this goes anywhere. Like, that to me, like, that's such a crime against humanity and a crime against children. Like, there's nothing else other than, like, you don't understand anything else. So, especially if we're using cars against human bodies, catch me outside.
We've tried.
Like,
we tried on more than one time to have her arrested. We even went to the Matamoros side, letting them know what she was doing because it's wrong. And they said no, because the asylum seekers don't belong to them. They were like, if she needs to get arrested, it's on the U.S. side. She would have to be arrested for that. And we tried again on the U.S. side, and they said no, she's not breaking a law. She can do that. A lot of parents lost their children because she was lying to them, telling them that the kids would get out within a week or two of being in a kid jail. And sometimes that's the case. If you're very, very lucky, if all the paperwork works out, if the relative is willing to have their fingerprints taken, the interview. I worked in the kid jail. It's a process even for the relative to get the kid out. So, like, if all that happens and, like, phone calls are answered, then, yeah, maybe a week or two your kid can get out. But most of the time, we're talking about months to a year or more for these kids, or not at all. So she did lose some of those kids. Some of those kids did not go to a relative. They are stuck in that jail. And a lot of the parents who are still inside the camp, who I've spoken to, say they regretted that decision. They wish they could take it back.
So let me ask you this, and then I have a couple more. Like, we'll come back, but I'm looking to like detour real quick. So Robinette, which is Biden's middle name. However, once I found out his middle name was Robinette, I can't call him anything. I call him President Robinette.
Robinette.
Right. So, as an aside, somebody on Black Twitter found out that his middle name was Robinette, and it like went viral. And I thought it was a joke because, Black Twitter will like put people's middle names in as things that they're not. So I was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then somebody like retweeted the thread and was like, no, y'all. And like had his birth certificate. It is really Robinette. Like, it is really Robinette, which is amazing. Anyway, so President Robinette has been very busy in his first, I don't even know what day it is today, 10, 11 days of presidency. And he's been writing a number of executive orders. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have been strictly to reverse. I don't have like an intellectualized way of framing this, so I'm just going to call it the fuck shit that Trump did, because at this point I can't intellectualize the harm that he has caused via the signing of, and clearly tons of laws that I didn't even know about. Who knows what else he's done, right? That we just don't know until you have a woman kidnapping children. Do you have hope, or have you seen anything yet that would give you any kind of hope that things are going to change under this presidency? And I'm not talking about change like just go back to what it was before Trump made things worse. I'm talking about like truly honoring the asylum seeking process in a humanized way that upholds the responsibilities that this country is absolutely like ignoring.
So I can tell you what he hasn't done. He stopped MPP, but he only stopped it for new asylum seekers, which is incredibly unfair for the people who've been living outside in the encampment for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So those people are still stuck out there. Right. So if you're a new asylum seeker, you get to come over and wait for your U.S. trial. But if you're living out in the woods for a year and a half, you're stuck over there. So what he's told my staff and all the people who live out there is, give me a little while. I have to figure out a way to get you out of there. They've been waiting the longest.
How? You're the president. What do you mean figure it out?
He's asking them just to wait, and he has to figure it out.
Felicia, maybe you can make this make sense for me. I like to think that I'm a logical person, but I don't know how the process works in the tent cities, right? Or how one would. Now I do. I'm learning. I'm learning with everyone else. If a new asylum seeker comes up and says, hey, I'm seeking asylum, and there's a system in place to support them in America, could that same system not simply be opened up to those who have already been waiting?
His answer is no. It can't be.
Is there any logical reason for that?
So I can understand that there are thousands of asylum seekers already in Mexico waiting to cross. But I don't understand why they can't be processed first over someone who's just walking up today. But the way he has it set up at this moment is if you walk over today, you can come in. If you've been waiting for a year and a half, 2 years, you're stuck there until he can figure it out for you. So any hope my staff had after he won presidency kind of
went out the window.
Right.
Well, and this is the reason that I ask, because of exactly that, right? Like, granted, this is my motto. My ethos for this presidency is hopeful, but equally realistic.
Yeah.
And this is why, because it's, again, to your point, right? Oh, it's great. Yeah, we did away with MPP, but, and also, there are people who have been waiting, dehumanized, harmed, actively traumatized, re-traumatized, separated from their families, like, who will potentially never recover from this experience, just emotionally.
Right.
But like, no, we'll get to them later. That's not okay. I know you know that. I'm just kind of...
I know. Most people don't know before me.
Yeah. So, okay. We have asylum seekers. We have wild American women kidnapping them. We have laws that have been imposed that are making the additional dehumanization of asylum seekers completely legal, with no financial support to y'all, the yous, right? You and all these other American citizens who have created organizations to plug in the holes and fill the gaps. Because to your point, you're not just... Education is highly important. Let's look here. Everyone that listens to me knows I'm like, education is the key. Education is the key. There's a reason that melanated folks were not allowed to read, or be in school and so on and so forth, right? It's a question of accessibility. It has, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording, but there's a reason that when you see lower rates or lower graduation rates, right, and like limited access to education, you see higher rates of crime and poverty and, lack of healthcare and all the other things, right? Like, those two things are very deeply correlated. It's not by accident. It is on purpose then that you have asylum seekers, you have these little babies that are already living in horrible conditions, but now don't have access to your point, books, right? But y'all are doing so much more than that. Feeding them, clothing them, providing them with, medical care, all things that America should be doing. But like you just said, Robinette's not making it happen for the thousands of people who have been waiting and waiting and waiting. So for people who don't know that this is a thing, and when I say don't know this is a thing, I mean don't truly understand that there are internment camps on U.S. borders, right? Or shout out to Mexico, right on the other side, right? What can they do?
So if you cross into Matamoros, once you cross past their Mexico customs, immediately to your left is the encampment. It's literally right there. Take one step, honestly. After you pass Mexico customs, take one step, look to your left, you will see the encampment. It's completely fenced in with barbed wires at the top, and there's only one entrance and one exit. You can see it as Mexico protecting them from the cartels, or you can see it as a prison. It's up to you how you want to look at the encampment. But it's literally right there. You don't have to go search for it. Just look to your left once you cross.
And I also, because I know this is something a lot of Americans don't understand, because America does not properly teach geography. The border between the US and Mexico, a lot of times you don't even know where it is because it's not marked, or there isn't a fence, or there isn't, what was it? The wall. The fucking wall. Right? Like, you don't know that. You don't even know that, like, literally you could, just reach out your hand and technically that's, another country's airspace.
Right. I agree.
So to say, like, I want to paint that picture for people because I want them to understand really what America has done. America has said, we can see you. Literally, we can see you. We can reach out and touch you. But just stay over there because we don't want you to be our problem.
Yes.
Right?
That's what we've
done. So how can folks support you? Because to your point, mass media paints the picture, a very, very, very specific picture of what these camps look like. Right? They don't talk about any of the privatized aid and I call it privatized because it's not government, it's US citizens, right? Privatized aid and organizations that have popped up to provide support. And that also, again, is intentional, right? They create criminalized images of asylum seekers. They paint these stories. It's probably why this wild ass, you know what though? I might be fucked up. I immediately almost said wild ass white woman. I just assumed she was white. The American woman that was kidnapping people. She is. See, I already knew. This wild ass white woman kidnapping children probably has read all the articles about like, oh, but the kids would be better off because their parents are demons. I don't know. All the bullshit that is, put out there. And so I want to take this moment, like, how can people support you? What do you need? What does that look like? Even if it's just like, yo, here's a link, run us money, or send us clothing or books. Like, what is it?
So I didn't mention that the Sidewalk School, we only hire qualified asylum seekers. So all of our teachers have degrees from their home countries.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to hear Ray next episode.
I'll let it be a surprise what Ray does, but we also have a nurse, an IT person, 2 business owners, a doctor, another doctor. He doesn't work with us anymore, but he did for a while. Like, we have overqualified people being teachers because something else people don't know is asylum seekers can't work in Mexico. So when you're in Mexico, you have to be there for a period of time, and then you have to pay a fee to get a permit in order to work. But that period of time is like 3 to 5 months. So they can't work. So the staff that we have at the Sidewalk School, I'm very proud to say, they've been with us the whole time. And they get paid weekly by the Sidewalk School. We also have 7 teachers' aides inside of the camp. One has her master's degree in communications. Like, overly qualified people, but we pay them weekly. So what really is needed actually is money to continue to pay the staff so they have a living wage, which is what they do have a living wage in Mexico. And then besides that, I should also mention the Sidewalk School is in 7 cities across Mexico. All of our classes are via Zoom. We fundraise enough money to buy over 240 Amazon Fire tablets, and we mail them out to all of our students. And we give them out inside the encampment. So no matter where you are, you can continue school because asylum seekers do move around. We have close to 200 students at this point. And that is something I'm proud of, that education can follow them no matter where they are.
Yeah.
So money.
Okay.
Money to pay the staff.
So I'm going to add one on because I think that, and I always tell the listeners to do this. So they're like, we know, but I'm going to say it anyways. I say it every episode. So yes, we're going to support via funds, but you're going to share this episode. You are going to find... And all the links will be in the show notes, but you're going to find Sidewalk School on Instagram, on Facebook, on, their website, the same way that you can share, we're going to use the Queen, Beyonce's new song that just came out, or the new Ivy Park, whatever it's called, drip that, she's putting out. And Beyonce doesn't need you to post and repost. Beyonce is good, right? But the same way that you can do that, you can do this. You can take a second and let people know about the work that the Sidewalk School is doing, that the Sidewalk School exists, that there is a place that you can go and put your coins. We know that they're hard earned, but if y'all listen to me at this point, this far into as many episodes as I've done, y'all know we are only as effective as we are in community. And so even if it's $1, that cup of coffee that you were going to go get wherever, that literally could change a child's life at the Sidewalk School, right? That $6 latte that you were going to, every single one you were going to get every morning, that's $40, right? So I say that, Felicia, they all know because I'm a wild, I love me some coffee. But I say that because that's how, you can go without coffee for a couple days. So if you're really wondering, you can. I promise you, I've done it. I had a headache and it was fine. But my point is, you can do this. So that is your call to action. We do calls to action here, Felicia. That is your call to action. So y'all are going to share, repost, let the people know that this is a thing. Let them get this education. And then when you can, even if it is $1, even if it's 50 cents, donate, provide funds, provide support. That is what they need right now. Felicia, is there anything else that you want to let the people know or tell the people or ask for or anything?
There is. I want to share a story of one of my staff members because, the Sidewalk School also has an Etsy shop. And I'm going to send you and Lucy
I didn't
some
know.
of the prints.
Yes, tell us. I love
Etsy. In the Etsy shop, all the paintings and prints are made by asylum seekers who live inside the camp. It's absolutely beautiful. You should go, Weeze.
That's cool. I'm going to.
But one of our most popular painter, his name is Mel. His story, his paintings are going to blow your mind. They're absolutely gorgeous. But Mel made it to Matamoros because he was shot 6 times in his home country in the stomach and in the chest. And he only survived because he was 18 at the time. If it wasn't for that, obviously, stomach chest, you would die.
Yeah.
Right? So that he and his brother make it to Matamoros. Mm-hmm. They live in Matamoros now in the camp. And then they were kidnapped by the cartel for 5 days and held. They were released after they were paid. They went to their U.S. trial and Mel was denied because the judge said he couldn't prove that they would shoot him again or that he would be kidnapped in Matamoros again. So Mel's asylum has been denied.
Wait, I just want to make sure I heard you right. Because this logically doesn't make sense to me. This young man has been shot 5 times.
6 times.
6 times. Which should have been fatal.
Yes.
He is then kidnapped.
Yeah.
He goes and he says, help me. I need safety.
Right.
I need asylum. And they say, can't really prove that you're in danger.
Right. Again.
I hate it here. Okay. So if for the folks listening, if that is not an indicator, because we've also talked about the justice system, we'll also be talking about the prison industrial complex this season. So this will just tie together very beautifully in the most twisted way. But if this is not an indicator of how deep the problem is, I don't know what is. But I am a huge fan of Etsy for that reason, because creatives who would normally, especially marginalized creatives, melanated creatives, who would normally not be able to get their art out in any other way, are able to create and actually get paid for their work instead of a lot of the ways that art is predatory, specifically with melanated folks, especially immigrants, being like, oh no, let us show your work and then we're going to sell it, but we're only going to give you 10% because we did all the work. No. So we'll also put the link to the Etsy shop in the show notes so that y'all can see that too and go check it out. And again, sometimes I feel like, look at the universe. Every single episode, it's like my one theme that runs through everything just pops back up, because they also hear me talk about supporting, melanated creatives and, authors and all the things, because we are more than just, your tokens and and your caricatures. So that's dope. We're going to support him specifically, and we'll put the Etsy shop link in the show notes as well.
Thank you, Weeze. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. All right, y'all. You have your calls to action. You have your directives. Until next time, please stay tuned because there is a part 2 to this episode. We are going to have Ray on. I got to meet him very briefly already, and he just has like a light to his. That's the only way I can explain it. He's got a light, and I cannot wait for him to share that with y'all. Oh, she just showed me one of the pictures, y'all. Yo, okay, yeah, I need that link.
Mel did this as a gift to my mom.
Yo, y'all have to check this out. That's beautiful. Oh, I'm going to go on there. And I just moved. I have empty walls. So he's going to have to go on my walls. I just have art. I'll find a place where it can go wherever.
Yes.
Amazing.
You will love
Amazing.
it. He has a ton of it. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
That one sold for $1,300.
Good for him. I heard that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he made it really good with all that. But yes, please go check out his art. It's amazing. He's only 22. It's amazing, the beauty. Wait till you see the painting called Peace of Mind.
Okay, I'm going to go dive in to all the things. Felicia, thank you for being here. I appreciate you sharing yourself and all the things that you do. I'm honored that you shared your time. And I truly, 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 I know, I started this episode saying it. I know you're in it and you're just one foot in front of the other, but you're doing something so amazing. We all have our own parts to play in combating all of the atrocities that are committed against, the disenfranchised in this world. And the part that you're playing is amazing. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all. Bye. All right, y'all, that's all I got. But don't forget your action items. 1, join me on Podia, where you can get access to tons of BTS content, including a very special Weeze interview with all of our guests. 2, rate, review, especially a written review. Subscribe, like, and share this podcast with all of your peoples. 3, if you aren't already, go peep me on IG. Follow me there. And, most importantly, keep coming back. All right, until next time, toodles!